This morning I am going to begin my remarks by asking you to do something which probably will not make a difference. I will conclude my remarks by asking you to do something that will, in the long run, make a difference. Tomorrow, the Department of Education is going to be voting on what they call an expansion of Title IX. Some of you may have heard of Title IX. It was instituted in 1972, and it had to do with sex and gender, and to protect against discrimination against sex and gender in the schools. Sex meaning men and women, equal treatment in the schools. Same thing with race, racial equality in the schools. Fair enough. Tomorrow, they're going to begin to expand the meaning of Title IX. It will no longer mean boy or girl. It will mean sexual orientation and gender identity. That's a huge expansion of meaning. The bishops have asked us to inform our people that they are encouraged to send a letter or an email to the Department of Education protesting this change. You can do this by going online, United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, Title IX, and the bishops will have a form that you can easily fill out and then submit via email. It has to be there by tomorrow. You might be saying, well, what is involved with this expansion? Let me just explain a few of the things that will happen if this Title IX is expanded. Department of Education is a government agency. Government agencies have taken upon themselves a tremendous amount of authority. So what I'm talking about is not a law enacted by Congress. Title IX is enacted by Congress. What it is, however, is a power grab on the part of government agencies, bureaucrats, rewriting laws to reflect a certain ideology. What happens here? The first thing is this: if this expansion does take place, and my prediction is that it will, first of all, students in our schools can demand from their teachers that they use preferred identity pronouns. In other words, if a boy or girl decides that they are not a boy or girl, the teacher would be legally obliged to refer to them in whatever they think they are. Pronouns would then become them or they. Instead of the singular, him or her, them or they. If a teacher does not abide by that, the teacher would be breaking the law. We have a case like that in Ireland, of all places, right now. A teacher refused to use the preferred identity pronoun. He was put on administrative leave. When he returned to the school, without having a hearing, because he said it was against his religious principles to speak to people who are other than the way God created them, he is now in jail. This becomes a religious issue. Why? As Christians, we believe that God made us male and female, and that we do not have to recognize someone for something that God did not make them to be. So that is a problem right now, and Title IX would change so that preferred pronouns and preferred identities would become part of the school's rules and regulations, guidelines. Secondly, abortion would come under the category of non-discrimination. In other words, if a student desires an abortion, the school would have to not only permit abortion for a student without parental consent, but the school would also have to promote abortion in order that they could achieve equality of the sexes. Goes further. It is the denial of parental rights. So suppose, not just in the case of abortion, suppose a child decides that they want to become something other than the way God made them. The school, without parental consent, would have to begin to provide that child with hormonal therapy and even permit a sex change operation without parental consent. That's mutilation. It's contrary to what we believe in as Catholics, as Christians. It's anti-biblical. And so you can see why the bishops and Christian leaders are so concerned that Title IX not be expanded. It really is another overreach of the state into our private lives and a way of manipulating us into making us different from how God created us. As you know in the past, from many of the things I have said, I am gravely concerned about the government schools. They have become a place for indoctrination. They have become a place for grooming students into believing things that are just not true, logically not true, and inconsistent with a Judeo-Christian beliefs. As a matter of fact, the common sense of 99% of humanity. In our own school district here in Collier County, we have approximately 48,000+ students. We have a school budget of about $1.5 billion. $1.5 billion. I have to ask you, can we trust the public school system? Can we trust the public school system with what they are teaching our students? And many, of course, will plead, it's not our fault. This comes down from on high. I could lose my job if I don't promote certain programs for sexual orientation, gender identity, abortion rights, transgenderism. There is a group that provides programs in our public schools. They are not part officially of the school curriculum, called Gleason. Gay, lesbian, straight, it's called. And they provide it to schools throughout the country, and these meet as student organizations. They can meet after school. They're student-led. legal. But this is what our students come in contact with all the time in the government schools. I am gravely concerned. Now, I told you, I want to just send letters. The bishop is requesting these letters, these emails, to ask the Department of Education not to expand Title IX. I just read this morning that over half the emails protesting the change have mysteriously disappeared. Over 200,000 emails mysteriously disappeared. And they're calling it a secretarial error. It's amazing what disappears these days, isn't it? Just amazing. And it's everywhere. It's everywhere. And don't tell me that this all of a sudden was just the mistake of some person pressing the wrong button. It's not. This is devious. Why? Because those people who are, I'm going to call for a better word, the elites, who think that they know how society should operate, who believe that they can recreate reality and recreate us and according to their own image and likeness. These people know that the schools are the most important institutions that we have in our society because they form the young people. Who is supporting the school systems? We are. Our tax dollars. The $1.5 billion in Collier comes from us. And it was just increased. I think we should be very careful, first of all, about where our tax money is going, number one. Number two, how is it being spent? How come a Catholic school can educate a student for about half the price of a public school? How come? I want to know why. We're filled with administrative levels. We're filled with people who promote different ideologies. And maybe in our communities we have too many people who don't really understand what is at stake when we send our children to a government school. I've told you before, be very careful about who you vote for school boards. They're very important. Be very careful who you vote for when it comes to elections for Congress and Senate, for a state house, for a state senate. Because these people eventually, including the highest office in the land, have the power of the purse and can use executive orders to promote it. So now I said to you, I'm going to tell you something that can work. I don't think these emails that you're going to send this afternoon are going to get very far. If the vote is tomorrow and half disappeared over the weekend by a secretarial error, I don't know how far your email is going to go. But I will tell you something that will go far. And this is for the future. These things, what has happened to our school system, what has happened with Title IX, what has happened with the administrative levels of our government, have taken place over a number of years. It gradually erodes our freedoms. It's like the frog in the boiling water. Slowly but surely, the heat is going to kill. And we don't sometimes even realize it. I want you to write to our representatives, state and federal. I want you to write to our local politicians and tell them that we want tax credits for education. Tax credits. What does that mean? It means that we take the money and we send our children to the schools that we want them to go to. Tax credits. Why do we do this? It's not just so they could have a better background in mathematics or a better background in history and civics, although they surely do need that. But we recognize that the immortal souls of our children are at stake, and they are our future. So you have an obligation to your children and to your grandchildren to begin the process of breaking us away from a school system that has become corrupt and one that is endangering people's moral lives and ultimately their immortal souls. Please write to them. Tell them we need tax credits to establish schools that we can finally trust with our precious children. God love you.